So we're going to explore some movements in sitting, and then we're going to explore some movements down on the floor on a mat. So if you need to do anything just to prepare your space, if you need to clear anything or roll your mat out, go ahead and have that ready. And if the floor isn't accessible for you, you can stay seated for the whole thing. So no worries if the floor isn't a friendly place or an accessible place for you at the moment. You can continue in your chair, in your seat. Okay. So I would love to know a little bit more about what's brought you here. So pop in the chat. What was your why? What was your reason for coming and joining me for these 90 minutes? Maybe there's something in particular that you'd like to learn or you'd like to explore. What is your reason for being here? And I'm very glad that you are here. And if you're not here live and you're catching up on the replay, just give yourself a moment just to consider what is your intention? What is your intention for the next 90 minutes? Pain in neck, shoulders, back and hip. Oh, Carolyn, such common areas of discomfort, right? Well, I'm really glad that you're here. I'm so pleased that you're here because we're certainly going to explore some movements and release for those areas for sure. Judy, some more information about somatics. Christine, recovering from heart surgery. Yeah, and if we're looking at strengthening and restoring balance, restoring our functional movement, our ability to move in the way that we're designed to, really lays an effective foundation for strengthening to be really, really good for us. So restoring the function, setting the ground, right? Laying the groundwork so that everything we want to add on top of that is going to be explored and added in a really effective way. So I'm really glad that you're here, Christine. Anna, to deepen your own practice. Prepare for teacher training. Excellent. Oh, that's brilliant. And I'm not the only teacher here as well. There's a few of you here that are also teachers. So we are growing, right? This method is getting out there, which is wonderful. Maria, to release stress. Oh yeah. Yeah, you're gonna have plenty of explorations to release stress in held in the muscles, held in your system. Jean, you were impressed with my talk and practical steps of last week. Brilliant. So you're here for more, right? Need to release tension in the body. Oh, Sally, you are in the right place for sure. Mark, to reconnect and relax ahead of the full moon. Oh, beautiful. You've got a meditation later tonight. Yeah, it's tomorrow, right? Tonight, tomorrow, the full moon. Yeah. Oh, the stars aligned. Yes, I love it when that happens. Judy, osteoporosis and fractures of the spine. So if they are current, my recommendation to you is not to follow the movements, but merely to imagine yourself exploring them, especially if you've not been cleared for movement. So you can close your eyes or soften your gaze and just imagine yourself going through the movements. The movements that we'll start with around the face and the jaw will be absolutely fine for you, but the movements involving moving the spine, just imagine the movements rather than actually go through them while you're still healing. That's really important. Bev, back and hip. Yeah, we are certainly going to explore some movements and release that's going to help relieve that. Sure. So we're going to sit for a little while, so make yourself as comfortable as you can be. If you need to move and you need to come away from sitting, then please do what you need. Okay. Leah, oh, your friend is Kathy Scott. Oh, how wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And about balance. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Pain in left hip. Okay. Well, Leah, I'm so glad that you're here and there's lots that we could explore. We're not specifically going to look at balance between left and right in this session, but there are many, many ways that we can explore that and restore balance to reduce those differences, that those lopsided alignments that might show up for us. And Fran to explore a bit more. Brilliant. Okay, thank you for all your sharings, folks. So let's dive into the good stuff. So to set a bit of context for what we're going to explore, especially around the jaw. And whilst no one has mentioned there specifically discomfort around the jaw, this can be an area that we can really build up stress and tension. And think how often you use your jaw, your mouth, your face. It's every single day, right? Every single day. We're chewing, we're swallowing, we're breathing, we're speaking, we're using our face to communicate, to express emotion. And this is all happening without needing to think about it. And when we think about restoring control and comfort and coordination around the muscles of our face, we're really using a lot of brain space for this. So we have our sensory motor cortex, so this part of our brain that is dedicated to sensing and moving. So everything that you feel and everything that moves within your soma, within your whole system, is being organized, coordinated by our sensory motor cortex. And a third of your sensory motor cortex is dedicated to this area. So this isn't a very big area compared to the rest of you, right? But a third of your sensory motor cortex is dedicated to organizing the function around your jaw, your mouth, your tongue. So that gives us an idea as to how sensitive and how much this area does for us, the significance that this area has for us. And I'm going to share an image with you for those of you that appreciate visual explanations. I am going to share an image with you. So I'm going to share my screen. And please do give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Brilliant, it worked. Okay, so this diagram here, some of you may be familiar with this, some of you may not, but this is called a homunculus, which is a bit of a quirky, a bit of a quirky name. And this essentially is a map of your brain. So this is our sensory motor cortex. So we have the motor part on this side and the sensory part on this side. And it maps how much of this part of your brain is dedicated to certain parts of your system. So it's a visual map to give you an idea of how much brain space is committed to the different parts of your structure. And you can see on the left here, you can see how much space is taken up with your face. So a third of your incredible sensory motor cortex is dedicated to your tongue, to all the actions involved around your jaw, your lips, your eyes, from your chin all the way up to your forehead. And then another third is dedicated to your hands. So we have a third dedicated to our face and all the functions around here. Think of all your senses around here, your sight, your ability to smell and hear and taste. Another third is dedicated to your hand. So thinking about the significance, or I'm just going to mute. Someone's not on mute. There we go. A third to your hands, and that leaves a third to the rest of your structure. So your back, your chest, your hips, your groin, your legs, your feet. That leaves a third for everything else. We've got a third for our face, a third for our hands, and a third for everywhere else. And that's with regard to movement and with regard to feeling, sensing and feeling. And you may have come across a homunculus in a different way. Sometimes you might see them as images like doll figures where the head is really big and the hands are really big and then the body is small. So you might have come across this idea, this concept in an actual figure. So let's bring you on back. So why have I shown you that? Well, it helps us to recognize the significance of this area. And we're going to come into some movements to help us to regain control of this area, to ease any tension in this area. But because of how much brain space there is for here, we want to move really gently. So for those of you who are familiar with this practice with somatic movement, you'll be aware that the way that we move is gentle. It's without increasing any discomfort. It's always within our range of comfort. Sometimes we've already got niggles going on, but we explore in a way that doesn't increase that. And we apply that even more so to this area. It is very, very easy to overwork and over effort the movements that we're going to explore around our jaw. So we're going to go really gently. This is a highly sensitive area, right? You've got a third of your motor cortex, sensory motor cortex, committed to it. So hence why we're going to explore gently. And the emphasis is upon feeling. So for those of you who are less familiar with this practice, it's really about getting effective, getting really skilled at being able to feel yourself from the inside. That's what this practice is all about. Okay. So if you are able to restore control and be able to feel and move even more freely around here, what effect might that have on your ability to communicate, your ability to direct your senses? So thinking about, turning your head to cross the road, looking over your shoulder. There's a lot about our safety, our personal safety, that's also connected to this area. So just take a moment to consider, what if you could continue to have full control, coordination, and ability to feel the muscles of your face? What would that make easier? Maybe looking over your shoulder. Maybe being able to speak and articulate yourself. If we have held tension that builds up over time around our jaw, around our neck, then that can over time affect our ability to speak and articulate ourselves, to share our needs, right? To actually speak our needs to other people, to express emotion through our face, through our eyes. And when we think about communication, we're talking about connection, right? Our ability to connect with one another. So before we move into exploring some movements, I'd love to hear if there's anything that's new or anything that resonates for you from what I've shared so far. Jean speaking, yeah, for sure. It's difficult for others to help us meet our needs if we're not able to articulate what they are, right? All of it. Just all of it, Jean. Brilliant. So, what is standing out for you? Maybe there's something you've been reminded of. Maybe there's something new. Just give you a moment to write any sharings. All of it. Neck turning has tightened recently. Oh, Christine, then I'm so glad that you're here because I'm confident that what you're going to explore in this session is going to help you to release and free up. Yeah, Judy, to actually listen to the movements if they're painful. Yeah. We do a great job of pushing on through, right? Ignoring what we're feeling, ignoring those warning signs of pain and discomfort, especially if we've been given the message of just push through the pain, work hard. There's no pain, there's no gain without pain, I should say. Yeah. And the signal to rest the body to relax and communication as a whole nervous system. Yeah. And this practice really is about connecting with the root cause of these areas of tension and symptoms. And the root is our nervous system, right? That's where we function from. So being able to release these symptoms from the root cause. Mark, to express emotions includes allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. Oh, absolutely. It can be the scariest thing in the world, right? To be able to share our emotions, our genuine feelings, not the ones we're happy to share, but actually what's really taking place. There is a vulnerability within that. And no wonder we build up these layers of tension, right? They can be incredibly effective at keeping us hidden and seemingly keeping us safe. But then in doing so, we deny ourselves an opportunity to meet our needs. Yeah. So, yeah, the vulnerability for sure. I've been there many times. It's not always comfortable, right? But there is sunshine on the other side of it for sure. Oh, yeah, breathing, Jean. Absolutely. Yeah, we hold a lot of tension if we've got any breathing restrictions around our face and then down into our chest and our belly, we're going to explore some movements to help release with that. Fran, sparked thoughts for you around brain fog and the difficulty with word finding, speaking fluently. Oh, wow, yeah. There might be a connection. Yes. Yeah, around chronic fatigue. It's possible, right? For sure. And this is where understanding ourselves as a whole system can really help us to effectively create change. When we understand that actually there is no separation between our mind, our thoughts, our physical structure, but we are this whole system and every single part of our system is connected to every other part. This practice helps us to experience ourselves in that way, not these separate entities, but as a whole system. And what can happen over time through our lived experiences, everything is experienced through this structure, right? Everything is a bodily experience. But over time, through our experiences, these areas of our system can become separated and they can create symptoms like neck pain or lower back pain or low energy, where we have these separated areas, this sense of separation. It's the opposite of whole, right? And healing and a sense of wholeness is our true nature, right? It's how we're designed. And we all have the same design, right? We all have exactly the same design. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing, folks. Are you ready to explore some movements? Thumbs up. Brilliant. So we are going to start seated. So If you are sat in the comfiest, squidgiest armchair or sofa, just bring yourself forward so that you're not slumped or leaning back against the back of your chair, whatever it is that you're sat in. And just bringing yourself to a kind of upright position, having both feet planted on the ground, letting your arms just hang as is comfortable for you. And because this practice is all about the felt sense, go ahead and close your eyes, or if you prefer to keep them open, just soften your gaze. And just give yourself a moment to settle into your spot here, noticing where you might be deliberately holding yourself or trying to correct how you're sat here. Could you let yourself just sink into an easy way of sitting? And then bring your awareness to your sit bones where you're meeting your seat. And notice the weight through each sit bone. Does it feel balanced between left and right, or do you have a sense of more weight or more pressure sinking into one sit bone? What do you notice? And if you feel as though there's more weight in one sit bone, just go ahead and exaggerate that. So just sink into that sit bone a little bit more. So you might lean a little bit to one side and feel how you, and if you've exaggerated that pattern, and then come back to what feels like a normal place of center. And then go ahead and just sink into that side one more time, exaggerating that pattern, exaggerating the way your muscles are holding you, and then let yourself come back to center. Just coming on back. And then go ahead and sink into the other sit bone and notice if that feels as familiar. Does it feel a little awkward? Do you sink into this side in a different way? Maybe your torso moves differently. And then coming back to center. And center is that place where there's no conscious effort to be there. You can just be. And then go ahead and sink back into that second side just one more time. Noticing if it's as easy, as familiar as the first side, and then coming back to center. Let yourself settle there. And then just notice where you've landed. Notice already if you've created a little more balance between your left and your right, just by a couple of movements, just giving your brain a different experience of where your true center might be. And then we're going to come up to explore some movements around the jaw. So bring your awareness up to your jaw and just notice and observe what sensations are taking place around here. Notice how close together your lips are, or if there's any space. Notice if your upper and lower jaw are connected. Are your teeth clenching and pressing together? Is there space between them? And where do you feel your tongue resting in your mouth? Is it pressing to any particular part of your mouth, or does it feel as if it's just kind of floating in the middle? And then bring your hands to either side of your jaw. So your fingertips are kind of pointing up towards your ears on either side. And in fact, before we go into the movement, just have a feel of either side of your jaw and notice if the size, the shape, or the texture, left and right, feels the same, or maybe one side feels a bit softer or bigger than the other side. So just notice what is there. And then resting your hands on either side of your jaw. And as I mentioned before, we're going to explore these movements with a focus on feeling and very gently. So there's no force or push. So with your hands on the outside to feel what happens on the outside, could you gently let your lower jaw just open? So your chin lowers down and your lower jaw opens away from your upper jaw. And notice what you feel under each hand at either side of your jaw. Does it feel the same? And then let your mouth just glide back up to its resting spot. And then go ahead and lower again. And does it feel as if your jaw lowers straight through center? Or does it go a little off to one side? What are your hands telling you? And then bringing it back up. And then go ahead and let your jaw open. And could you gently swing or slide your jaw to one side? Not pushing or forcing, just letting it go as far as is comfortable. And then coming back to center and back up to meet your upper jaw. And we're going to explore that direction a couple more times. And if any point you want to rest your hands down, please do. Go ahead and let your jaw open and let it slide to that side again. Notice how far your jaw can move freely and comfortably to that side. And then let it swing back to center and close. And then just explore that one more time. Not pushing or forcing, but be really curious about how that feels, how easy it is. And then when you've explored two or three to that side, let's go the other way. So you're going to let your jaw open and let it gently swing the other way. And notice if the range of movement, the ease of the movement is the same or different on this side. And then explore that once or twice more. And you've got your hands on the outside to sense and feel the differences as you move your jaw. And then when you've explored that side two or three times, just let your jaw rest, let your hands rest down. And give yourself a moment just to digest what differences you may have experienced there between moving your jaw left and right. Were there differences? Is that something you've been aware of before? And if you notice there were some differences between left and right, do you have any other differences that you know of in your level of comfort or range of movement between your left and your right? If you have hip pain, is it one hip or is it both? If you get any niggles anywhere in your system, does it tend to be more on one side? So you're starting to connect and really understand yourself as a whole system. So then we're going to explore the tongue. So allowing your mouth, your jaw to rest where feels most easy, most kind of normal for you. Our holding patterns show up as it feeling normal, doesn't take any conscious effort. Bring your focus to your tongue and go ahead and send your tongue to one side of your mouth. You might even just make contact with the inside of your cheek on that side, but not forcing or pushing. And then coming back to center. And just go ahead and explore that same side 2 or 3 times. You might give your inside of cheek a little poke, you might not. And then go ahead and compare with the other way. So could you send your tongue to the other side of your mouth? And does that happen as freely? If you poked your cheek on the first side, does that happen in the same way on this side? Maybe you push a little harder on one side. Maybe there's a bit more power one way. What do you notice? And then when you've explored that a couple of times each way, we're going to add in some differentiation. So this is movement that we just mix up a little bit from our normal routine. This is a great way of learning, of really growing our brain power for our ability to move and coordinate and control ourselves. So go ahead and let your jaw open again and let it swing to the right and take your tongue to the right with it. That might already happen. And then let it come back to center and close. And then open your jaw, let it swing to the left, take your tongue with it. And then come back up and into center and just explore that one more time each way. Allowing this to be soft and gentle. And if you feel the desire to yawn, please indulge in that. Yawning is how we release tension. So when you've explored those, the jaw and the tongue going together to each side, this is where we start to challenge our coordination and our control. So on this next one, could you let your jaw open and swing to the right as you send your tongue to the left? And notice if that's possible. And then come back to center. And then let your jaw gently open, swing to the left as your tongue goes to the right. And is that more coordinated that way? And explore that once or twice more to each side. And you might notice this is easier one way than the other. Same movement, but just doesn't somehow come together in one direction. And then when you finish that last one, let all that go. Let your jaw, your tongue just rest and be soft and be easy. And indulge in your yawns. Yeah, beautiful. It's so beautiful to see people yawning. This is how we release tension. And it's incredible how the moment we start to be present and move with awareness, we're able to create release. And that is what your yawn is telling you. You're releasing tension and stress that you might not even have known was there, right? You might not be somebody that suffers with any tension around the jaw. And yet you might be yawning. How cool is that? So we're going to take the focus away from our jaw now. And we're going to come back down to our sit bones and create some movement that helps us to release around our abdominals, our belly, and our lower back. So we're going to come to these big muscle groups in our center. And our contact with our seat is going to help us to explore this. And we're going to use our hands to help us to feel as well. So if it is comfortable, have one hand over your belly button at the front and pop your other hand to your lower back. So directly opposite. And at any point you want to switch your hands or you want to rest them down, please do. But this is where we're going to be focusing our release. So could you begin to send your belly into your hand? So you might take a generous inhale, let your belly push out. And as you do, can you feel your lower back arch? Go ahead and do that on purpose. You're going to arch your lower back and feel your weight tip to the front of your sit bones. So we're coming into an arch. Imagine that you're trying to sit up really straight and really tall. Your belly is expanding in front and you are deliberately arching and contracting your lower back. And then release back to a resting place. So let your lower back release and just come back to sit in what feels like a normal place. There's no conscious effort there. And then we're going to play with that again. So go ahead and arch your back as your belly expands forward. Feel the weight tip to the front of your sit bones, and you might feel like you're sticking your bum out behind a little bit, like you're lifting up your tailbone. Feel that deliberate tightening of your lower back and then slowly melt and release. Feel the weight come back on top of your sit bones and take a breath or two there. And then we're going to go the opposite way. So you've just gone into an arch and release, which helps you to release tension in your lower back. Now we're going to do a movement called flatten and release to help you to release tension in your belly. So could you now begin to round your lower back and feel the weight roll to the back of your sit bones? You might feel like you're tucking your tailbone under. And as your lower back rounds, deliberately scoop your belly in, tightening your belly. And feel that deliberate tightening in the front and a rounding of the back. And then begin to release your belly like you're undoing a tight belt. Let it release, coming all the way back to rest. Take a breath or two there. And then go ahead and explore that again. Rounding the lower back as you deliberately scoop and tighten your belly. And you might feel like you're now beginning to slump. This might be a position you end up in if you work all day at a desk. And when you sink into that flatten and your belly is tight, imagine you are working at a desk. You need to look at your screen. Go ahead and lift your chin so you're looking straight ahead. And this is a reflex pattern we sometimes get really good at holding and stuck in. And then soften your belly. Notice if you start to breathe more freely as you come back to your resting place. Beautiful. So these movements are our arch and flatten. These are like our bread and butter movements. What's interesting about tension around the lower back and the belly is that it's often the root cause of tension in our neck and shoulders, in our hips, in our knees. And these are our biggest muscle groups around the front and back of our torso. So it's a really helpful place to begin releasing, to ease off those symptoms we might be experiencing. So we're just going to explore a couple more of these, and we're going to bring in the mouth to these patterns as well because they are connected. So go ahead and roll into that arch. Let your belly expand as you deliberately contract and tighten your lower back. And as you do, could you close your mouth together just a little bit more? So going gently, but just bringing your upper and lower jaw a little tighter together. And then as you release your lower back, allow your jaw to soften as well. And you might even indulge in a post-yawn sigh at the end of that. Like you've literally just deflated releasing all of that tension. And then we're going to sink into our flatten. So keeping your face forward, go ahead and scoop and tighten your belly, round your lower back. And could you let your jaw fall open now? And you might even squint your eyes a little tighter. And then go ahead and breathe into your belly. Let it soften, let it get spacious again. Allowing your eyes to soften, your jaw to release. Have a breath or two at rest. Indulge in a yawn. Make it even bigger and better and louder than it would have been, right? Like it's the most precious gift you could give yourself in that moment. And then we're just going to explore one more of each of these. So you can keep your hands on your front and your back if it's helping you to feel the movement, or you can rest them. But go ahead and roll into that arch, and you might even bring your shoulder blades back as well. Feel where you've deliberately turned up the tension in your lower back muscles. Bringing your jaw together. And to add in the eyes here, you could even widen your eyes. Like you're on high alert. This is our go, go, go reflex. If we get stuck here, we might end up with back pain. And then soften your back all the way up between the shoulders, all the way through the jaw, to the eyes, to the brow. Take a breath or two at rest. Feel that deflation. This is often the part we've forgotten, this place of rest and release. And then keeping your face forward, go ahead and round your spine as you deliberately sink and tighten your belly. Go ahead and let your jaw open, squinting your eyes. And feel where that tension is in your belly and how it connects up to your shoulders, your jaw, your neck. And then release on out with awareness. Feel your belly relax, your neck, your face. And if not a yawn, indulge in a post-yawn sigh. Letting your arms rest if your hands are still on front and back. And then closing your eyes or softening your gaze. Just observe what sensations are showing up for you here and now. Where is your attention? Where are your observations landing very willingly and freely? And then bringing your awareness back to your sit bones. Where do you feel the weight through your sit bones? Is it as it was when you first scanned the way that you were sat? Has there been a change? So these moments to take a Soma scan really help us to digest and acknowledge the changes that we make as we move in these very deliberate, intentional ways. Observing and being able to recognize what has changed is part of the learning. So these are really key. They're a really fundamental part of this practice. Without them, the movements would be less effective. So they're as important as the movements themselves. Okay, so give me a thumbs up if you feel like you've created some release there. Maybe you experienced yawning, or maybe you have other sensations that tell you. Yeah, brilliant. Lots of thumbs up. Fantastic. Okay, so let's explore some down on the floor. So this is your opportunity, if it's for you, to move onto your mats. Lay yourself down on your back. I'll give you a moment just to get organized and settled there. And please do stay seated if that's where is the place for you. Okay. And there is much benefit to be had even by imagining the movement. So if the movements aren't accessible for you for whatever reason, what you'll be practicing as you imagine exploring the movements is a process called motor planning. So when you imagine yourself exploring these movements, you are still using that connection, those neural pathways between your brain and your muscles, which is why you can still experience the benefits without even doing them, which is pretty cool, right? This is what professional athletes do when they're imagining themselves doing their sport, when they're imagining themselves winning the race or scoring a goal. So this is rooted in science. Wonderful. So as you settle onto your back, find the position for your legs that is most comfortable. So you might want to keep your knees bent if that feels softer, or if you feel comfortable enough to slide them out straight, feel free to do that. And just as you were using your sit bones and your chair in sitting to get a sense of how your muscles were holding you in that moment, you now have even more contact being made with you for feedback. So the ground is a really brilliant resource for us. So take a moment to feel where the two sides of the back of you, from your head all the way down to your hips, is meeting the ground. And notice if there are any differences for you between left and right. It may be that one side somehow just feels more comfortable. Or there may be very specific differences. You might feel that one hip or one shoulder blade is heavier. And what the ground is helping you to feel here are any differences in how the muscles through your left side and your right side are functioning and holding. So if you can feel differences in your imprint, what you're noticing is differences in how your muscles left and right are holding you. And then when you've had time for that, if your legs are straight, one at a time, slide your heels up, bend up your knees, and just plant your feet so they're roughly hip width and they're not too close. They're not tucked in under your knees. They're a little further forward from your hips, just so you've got room for everything to move. But as always with this practice, if you need to change position to be more comfortable, then please do. So here we're going to come back to the movements of arch and flatten, which you've just explored in sitting, but it might feel quite different here. But it's this same coordination between your front muscles and your back muscles. Your back muscles never exist in isolation to the muscles through your front and vice versa. So maintaining our ability to coordinate them together has a huge impact upon our quality of living, our ease of movement. So bringing your focus back to your beltline area, could you begin to increase the arch of your lower back, like you're picking up the back of your beltline from the floor? Let your belly lift and expand and feel your pelvis roll towards your feet. You are deliberately arching your lower back. Can you feel that? And then as if you were just deflating, allow that effort to soften and melt until you're all the way back at rest. Have a breath or two there, and then we're going to sink into our flatten. So can you now round your lower back? Let it sink into the floor as you sink and deliberately tighten and tense your belly. And notice how your pelvis, your pubic bones roll up now. And then start to release your belly. Let it soften. Let it become freer, more spacious until you're all the way back at rest. So these deliberate movements you're creating around your center and through your pelvis are connected all the way up through your spine to your neck and head. So let's bring some awareness up to this top end and help your neck muscles to remember they're connected to these muscles lower down. So go ahead and arch again. Feel like you're rolling and tipping your pelvis towards your feet. And as you deliberately turn up the tension in your back muscles, notice if your head has moved. If this didn't happen, bring it in on purpose. Lower your chin down. So it's as if your chin and your pubic bones are both tipping down towards your feet. And then where your back is contracted, deliberately release. Like taking your foot off the accelerator until there is no more conscious effort. And then we're going to roll the other way. So go ahead and sink your lower back into the ground. Sink and tighten your belly. And as your pubic bones tip up, notice if your head has moved voluntarily. If this didn't happen, deliberately tip your chin up. So pubic bones and chin are both tipping upwards now to the head end of your mat. And then deliberately soften your belly. Feel how your breathing becomes freer. And notice if when you relaxed your belly, did your neck release as well? If your chin is still tipped up, remind your neck to lengthen and release. When our neck stays arched and contracted, this is one of the ways our patterns of held tension shows up. So now we're going to bring in the movements of the face into these patterns of our center. So as you next roll into your arch, a deliberate increase of tension in your back as your belly expands. Could you close your jaw together and open your eyes wide? Maybe you feel little grooves in your brow appear. And then as you soften your lower back muscles, remembering how to relax them. Let that ripple all the way up through your neck, your jaw, your eyes, all the way to rest. And when you feel your back is completely released, go ahead and sink into your flatten. So you're going to let your lower back round as you deliberately sink and tighten your belly. Chin tips up. Let your jaw fall open and squint your eyes, like maybe there's something you don't want to see. Squinting your eyes together, notice if one tightens more than the other. And then as you soften and release your belly, remember how it is to release tension. Send it up through your neck, your jaw, your eyes. And then go ahead and just explore one more of each of those patterns. And notice if one of these is more familiar to you. Do you find it easier to tighten into your back, to clench your jaw? Or do you find it easier to sink into the flatten and hold tension in your belly, hold tension in the back of your neck? Which of these feels more familiar? And then when you've finished your last one, don't let my words rush you, but when you've had time to finish that last one, if it is comfortable, you could slide your legs out one at a time or keep them bent if that's easier for you. But if you're sliding them out now, just notice if that's more comfortable than when you first laid down. So letting yourself just deflate here after those movements. Notice your contact with the ground. Has it changed at all since you first laid down? What do you notice? Is the ground maybe a little more comfortable for you? So this practice isn't about working hard or doing lots. It's about becoming more skilled at being present, at being able to feel and being aware. So from here, we're going to come back up to our face and explore some more release up here. So one at a time, bend up your knees if they were out straight. And bring your focus to your head and where the back of your head rests on the ground. And if you had a dot right in the center of the back of your head, do you feel as if your head is resting in center? Or do you feel as though there's a little bit of a tilt just slightly to one side of center? And maybe you know this about yourself. Maybe you notice your head is always a little tilted to one side. Maybe you notice it in the mirror or in photos. What do you feel here? And then we're going to explore some movement. And for this to be really effective at releasing tension, we're going to explore our free and easy range of movement rather than how far we could actually move ourselves. So, full range of movement and range of free and easy movement may well be two different things. So, without pushing your head, could you let it roll to one side just as far as it goes freely? And to go any further, you'd need to kind of put your foot on the accelerator. And then roll back to center. And whichever side you've just gone to, we're going to go to that side again. So go ahead and let your head just roll to that side again. Notice how far you can go freely before more effort's required. And then return to center. And then as you explore one more time to that side, where do you feel the restriction? Where is there a bit of a roadblock that you'd need to push to get through? Is it the side that you're rolling to, or is there something showing up on the other side of your neck? What do you notice? And then roll back to center. And then we're going to explore the other way. So could you now roll your head the other way? And do you roll as far this side? Is it a bigger free movement or is it more restricted? What do you notice? And then rolling back to center. And as you explore this second side again, notice where you feel any restriction. Is there any sense of holding back? Does it feel like the brakes are on anywhere around your neck or elsewhere? Returning to center. And then as you explore that one more time, notice if your head feels like it's rolling uphill or downhill. Or does the floor feel flat? And then come back to center. And just letting that information digest. And especially if you felt like you were rolling uphill one way and downhill the other way, without really knowing your floor, I'm pretty confident that it's probably quite level. So just noticing that. And then we're going to explore some movements involving the turning of the head and the eyes. So if your eyes are closed, could you open your eyes but maintain a soft gaze? So if you're really fixing looking at your ceiling, just allow your gaze to soften. And then go ahead and roll your head to the right and notice if your gaze just goes with it. Do you even need to think about sending your gaze to the right? And then come back through center and then roll your head to the left and notice if your gaze just goes with it. Do you even need to think about that? Just explore that one more time each way, noticing how easily, how effortlessly your head and your eyes move together. And then when you are back in center, this time we're just going to move our eyes. And if it's comfortable, what you can do is place your hands on either side of your neck to listen to any reaction in your neck muscles wanting to turn your head. But if that isn't comfortable, feel free to rest your arms down. So keeping your head where it is, could you send your eyes to the right? And notice how quickly your head wants to go with them, like it doesn't want to get left behind. And then bring your gaze back to center. Again, keeping your gaze soft, so we're reducing any potential strain. And then roll your eyes to the left and notice how quickly your neck muscles respond. Do they want to work? Do they want to turn your head? Come back to center. And then just explore that one more time each side. Nice and gently. Is it even possible to move your eyes without turning your head? And then when you finish those explorations side to side, you could just close your eyes. If you feel like you want to rest your eyes, you could cup your hands, your palms just over your eyes for a moment. Just let them be soft. And then when you are ready, rest your arms with your eyes open, but with a soft gaze. This time, could you keep your gaze center? So there might be something right in front of you that you can see. So keeping your gaze center, could you begin to turn your head to the right and notice how far you can go without your eyes following? And then you may realize that they started following without even realizing. These patterns run deep. And then rolling your head back to center, rest your eyes wherever you need. And then as you stay looking forward, turn your head to the left. And how far can you go without your gaze following? Taking this nice and gently. These are very sensitive areas. Rolling back to center. And then you could explore that one more time each way, keeping the eyes center, but rolling the head. Allowing the weight of your head to be supported by the ground. And then when you are back at center, again, you could just close your eyes or you could cup your palms over your eyes and just give them a little rest. And then we are going to bring in some differentiation with the eyes and the head. And again, we're going to explore this really gently, putting our focus on awareness and on being curious about what will show up here. So, not working hard, not forcing anything. So, when you are ready with a soft gaze, could you begin to send your gaze to the right as your head rolls to the left? And then come back to center, letting your head and your gaze line up in center. And then could you send your gaze to the left as your head begins to roll to the right? And is this possible? It may or may not be. And then when you come back through center, if you notice this is taking a lot of concentration, sometimes we can hold our breath a little bit when we're concentrating. So pop a hand on your belly just as a reminder to keep on breathing. And then go ahead and send your gaze to the right, your head to the left. Coming back to center, take a moment at rest. If you need to close your eyes for a moment, please do. And then gaze to the left and head to the right. And then coming back to center. And then when you are back at center, allow your eyes to be soft. You can close them. You could cup your palms over them. Breathing into your belly, breathing into your chest. Give yourself a moment at rest there. And these might seem like fairly subtle and small movements, but explored intentionally, they're also incredibly powerful. And a huge amount of your sensory motor cortex is dedicated to this part of your functioning. So there's a lot going on right now. You might be feeling a little different right now. So then just to come back to those head rolls as a comparison to explore actually what difference did any of that make to the comfort and the mobility around your neck. So with a soft gaze or eyes closed, go ahead and roll your head to one side just as far as it goes freely. And then rolling through center and then exploring the other side of center. How far does your head now roll this way? And you could just explore that one more time each way. And if your floor felt uneven between left and right, if it felt like you were rolling uphill or downhill either side, has it evened up? And if you've increased how far your head just rolls freely, give me a thumbs up. So if the floor feels more even or you've increased how far it rolls, lovely. Oh, wonderful. Nice. So it doesn't take lots of repetitions or more effort or force to create more freedom of movement. This is what this practice helps us to remember when it comes to restoring our natural way of moving. There is an ease within that. So if you would like, you can slide your legs out straight. Indulge in a posture sigh, letting go of anything you don't need to lay here with the most amount of ease, to be able to breathe and to be able to feel. And check in with the contact that you're now making with the ground. Do you feel as though you've made some differences to your imprint? One of the ways that releasing hidden tension shows up is that we might feel heavier. We might feel as though we're just giving more weight to the ground. We might feel like our imprint is deeper. Or we might just generally feel like something shifted, but we can't quite put our finger on it. So in those gentle yet powerful movements, there's been a lot of information for your sensory motor cortex to process. And one of the ways that shows up is that we might feel a little bit disorientated and spacey as we come back up. So with that in mind, gently roll yourself to one side. And when you're ready, just gently press yourself back into upright. Give yourself the time that you need to come back up. And then keep bringing yourself back on up. If you want to come back into your chair, or you might want to stay where you are. So coming back into wherever feels most comfortable for you in front of your screen. Give yourself a moment just to settle there. And you might notice you feel a bit kind of weird. That's one of the ways that change shows up, right? We know that we've interrupted our patterns. Our patterns are subconscious, they're a habit. Nothing really stands out about them. But when we create a change in how our system is functioning, one of the ways it shows up is that we feel a bit weird. Or we might feel a bit confused or a bit disorientated because you've added new information or long forgotten information into the mix. So your system, your brain is thinking, hang on a minute, what is going on right now? There's something new going on here. And this is the point, right? This is the point, this is the purpose that we are intending to create change through our practice of being present, being able to meet our needs, and in a really accessible and effective way, be able to peel away the layers of tension that build up through life. So we can restore our function. We can remember how to move freely with ease. We can use this incredible structure to speak, to eat, to drink, to communicate, to keep ourselves safe, so that we can keep living for as long as possible in the way that we're designed to live. And these movements, especially involving the eyes, they are incredibly powerful. So you might experience different states, different moods, different emotions. And just to say to that, that whatever response your system is having to those movements is completely normal, right? Your system is processing and releasing what may be areas of tension that have been there for a very long time. So I do have a gift to share with you just before we end, and I will come on to that. But before we come to that, if one of the sayings we have here, and those of you here who are teachers, you'll be familiar with this. One of the sayings we have at the end of a practice is feeling like you're in a soma coma. So all of that sensory information will settle, and the weirdness and the disorientated state that you might be feeling right now will settle, especially as you stand up and you take a walk around and you start to move more. So you may not be in a place right now where you can type, but I would love to hear in the chat if you're able to, if you're not too soma comed right now, I would love to hear what your takeaway is from this session. So, what have you learned about yourself, or what have you created? What have you been reminded of from our time here together? And if you are exploring this again with the replay, or you're taking it for the first time on the replay, give yourself a moment to consider what your takeaway is from these explorations. You might want to write it down, you might want to tell somebody if you're watching the replay, or just think quietly to yourself. Maria, your belly was speaking to you. I'm much more relaxed. Oh, how wonderful. Yes. And when our belly is more relaxed, it can ease feelings around anxiety or worry. It can also relieve tension around the neck. And it can also let your digestive system work a little more easily as well. I mean, there are many, many benefits. So wonderful. Jean, being more aware of your body. Yes. Sally, you feel relaxed and nurtured. Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for making this time for yourself. Beautiful. Anna, reminded of relationship between presence and balance and how much tension's in the eyes, right? I mean, it's incredible. We don't even realize we are constantly carrying this tension, but then we wonder why we get tired, right? We wonder why we have less energy for things. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Joanna, slow down to observe. Yeah. It's difficult to observe what's going on within us when we're fast, right? Life is pretty fast. Mark, peace and relaxation are available always, right? You have everything within you. All of you have everything within you to create more space, more peace, more relaxation. And when we peel away the layers that build up over time, we get to really reconnect with our essence. And Mark, you mentioned peace there. I absolutely believe that peace is a part of our natural core essence, right? The core of us is peace and happiness and joy. Yeah, wonderful. Christine, you learned that your left side is surprisingly tighter and thought it would be all right. Oh, that's incredible. And this is the thing about symptoms. Often, where we have the symptoms, the area that we might deem to be the problem area actually isn't always where the root cause is. So we focus on the symptom all day long, but never quite get that long-term relief because the cause of those areas of discomfort is often taking place somewhere else. So that's really cool that you found that awareness, Christine. I'm so happy for you because then you have a truer understanding of what's taking place, right? Then you have more opportunities to change that. Leah, you notice the imbalances and how, yeah, we don't practice eye and facial movements. Yeah, for sure. And you feel spaced out. Yes, you will not be alone with that at all. You've created change, right? Which says a lot about how effectively you were exploring those movements and how you were able to be present. Yeah, being present is wonderful. Absolutely. This practice really helps us to practice being present. And Fran, you're feeling quite a lot of warmth in your face and your back, realizing that releasing the back tension seems easier. Yes. Who doesn't want a more comfortable back, right? It's such a relief. And surprised at the differences between each side. Yeah, it's not necessarily where you think they are. The restrictions, absolutely. Love the repeated slow, mindful movements. Then no wonder you found your way here, right? Thank you so much for sharing, folks. Wonderful. Okay.